Hi everyone, it's a big day today. It's the launch of the official API of ChatGPT. Many people have tried to reproduce the features of ChatGPT with the GPT-3 API of OpenAI, but they have just released, as you can see now on my screen, the ChatGPT and also the Whisper API for speech-to-text recognition. So I wanted to show you very briefly in a notebook, in a Jupyter notebook on Kaggle, how to use the ChatGPT API, and then you can plug it into your Python workflow and you can start playing with it. I learned that the API had been launched thanks to an article in The Verge with all the details about the launch. So I invite you also to read the article. Obviously, to read the piece by OpenAI where they explain all the details about the launch, about what you can do with the API, also a few examples of big companies which have already integrated the API when it was in private beta. I presume you've got their Snap, you've got Shopify, you've got Instacart. So many companies have already integrated ChatGPT into their product, and you can do it now also at your end. And the cool thing is that if we look at the pricing of this API, I just pulled the pricing of OpenAI so that we can have a look together. So let's do this. Okay, so that's the pricing page of OpenAI. And as you can see, the latest model, so which is higher than GPT-3, GPT 3.5 Turbo, is priced at $0.002 for 1,000 tokens, which is approximately 750 words. And if we scroll down, we see that GPT-3, the best model which has been available so far from OpenAI, is priced at 0.02 for 1,000 tokens. So there's a difference, 10 here and 20 there. So it's 10 times cheaper to generate the same amount of text with ChatGPT, which provides a better response usually than GPT-3. So I think that I will, in all my Python scripts, quickly replace GPT-3 by GPT 3.5 ChatGPT. So yeah, something very important because I had an issue earlier when I was trying to implement ChatGPT inside of PyCharm. If you are running Python and if you have already installed the OpenAI package, the OpenAI library into your Python environment, you will have to upgrade OpenAI so that it can recognize that there is a new model available via the API. Otherwise, you will get an error saying that there is no chat completion model. But we will try this to show how it's working in a notebook in Kaggle. You can do it in Google Colab, obviously, but the cool thing with Kaggle is that if you install your libraries there, you can have them persistently installed as well as your files in your file system, so you don't have to reinstall the package all the time as you would do on another Jupyter Notebook hosting provider. So it's why I'm using Kaggle, and I will share access to my notebook after removing my API with you in the comments of this video. So if you're interested to just clone the notebook and start experimenting with the ChatGPT API, feel free to just click on the link in the description and you will get access to the notebook for free. Obviously, you will have to use your own API. Disclaimer, the API that you will see on the screen now is one of my OpenAI APIs. Obviously, I will revoke it just after recording the video. I don't want to pay for everyone testing ChatGPT, the API. Okay, so let's dive into the code on Kaggle. So as you can see, I first imported OpenAI. If you start a brand new session on your own, what you have to do before importing OpenAI is just do pip install OpenAI like this with an exclamation mark, it will install OpenAI, and then you can replace this by import OpenAI. So I will just remove this. Oops, sorry. Let's remove this by selecting this. Voila. So we have imported OpenAI. It's all fine. In the first cell, I just put my API key in this format. That's the easiest way to do it. Then in the next cell, I will build a request. So the way you do it is you just define that response equals OpenAI.chatCompletion.create, chatCompletion being the method here. It was completion for GPT-3. Then you select the model, which is GPT 3.5-Turbo. And you can feed the system with multiple messages. So you can give more context with multiple messages. So it's not by default a single prompt like what we used to have on GPT-3. And inside those messages, which will be in a list of dictionaries, inside this list of messages, you can also define the role of the person, quote unquote, writing the message. So here it will be a system message, but it could be, you could pretend that it's a sales agent, or that is a customer, or that is a writer, or whoever you want writing the content. And then you will write the content as if you would be in the ChatGPT interface. So you write the content. For instance, you say to ChatGPT, "You are my coding tutor," and there's another message saying, and that would be the interesting bit of this demo, "Give me the boilerplate py file," so Python file, for a Flask web app with one HTML page. And as you may know, ChatGPT is pretty good in code generation. To help you code your apps, improve your CSS or your JavaScript skills. So I've just asked ChatGPT via the API to generate the boilerplate, the starting code for a Flask web app featuring one HTML page. I should have cleared my output because, as you can see here, I already have some outputs. So we will rerun the cells now. Let's run the cell. So as you know, the cool thing with a notebook is that it helps you also understand the way you structure your call to the API step by step, and debug each of the steps. If there is a mistake, there will be an error thrown here between the cells. It's not the case, it's pretty fine, but if you're creating longer Python scripts, it's a nice way to debug your scripts to start in a Jupyter notebook on Google Colabs or on Kaggle. And then later you can just transfer those scripts to PyCharm or Visual Studio, for instance, and then run them from your favorite IDE. So next cell, it will just be I'm interested in two pieces of content coming back from the API. So I'm interested in the answer given by ChatGPT, and I'm also interested in the usage in tokens. So how many tokens has this request required to be processed by ChatGPT? And I will also calculate the cost of the request, which we will see in the last cell down below there. So if you want to access the answer from the JSON file coming back from the API, you've got to go this way. So response, and then between square brackets choices, then the first element of the list choices, then you go to message, and then you go to content. So that's the path to reach the content, the reply from ChatGPT. And if you want to get the total amount of tokens, you can do response, usage, total tokens. So if I run this cell, I will have the answer from ChatGPT as well as the amount of tokens used. in the next cell, I will print the answer coming back from ChatGPT. Let's do this. And as you can see, the answer is also in a format which could be interpreted as a piece of code. Okay, so it has told me that that's the boilerplate. So I have to import Flask, obviously, and also render template, and then I initialize my app. I run my app like this when I start my app like this when I run my Python file, and here it just tells me that there's one route to the home page, and it will render from the templates folder. It will render the page index.html, and it gives me a bit of explanation on how to use this code also. So the code is for a Flask web app. It creates a route for the root URL, and when the user navigates to the URL, it will render a page which is at index.html in the templates folder. So that's pretty good. And the last bit here of this demo is to calculate the cost of the request. So we got it from this response here, and so what I did was just to divide the amount of tokens, the usage, by 1000, and then multiply by the price per 1000 that we saw on the pricing page of ChatGPT. And so we will run this, and it tells us that this reply for 244 tokens cost less than 1,000th of a dollar, so nothing. And as you can see, if you've been running for a while the GPT-3 API for your applications, it's really worth repurposing your prompts to use ChatGPT, the ChatGPT API. It will be 10 times cheaper, 10 times cheaper. And yes, you can also limit the amount. I haven't done it, but you can also limit the amount of tokens of the reply coming back from ChatGPT. I think that it's already there in the documentation. It's probably already there. If not, you just go to the detailed documentation. Here we go. Let's have a look together. So here, so that's what we have just done, as you can see. And yes, that was the structure of the JSON coming back. So if you're not familiar with JSON, that's a JSON file. And we have accessed choices, message, content, and we have also accessed usage and total tokens. That's the way we have built our response. And I found earlier that it was possible to limit the amount of tokens returned, but you can have a look at the documentation. It's pretty clear, and you will know how to do it. So I will leave a link to this Kaggle notebook in the description below, so you can clone it. Maybe we can just finish this tutorial by asking another question to ChatGPT. Why not another question about coding? And we will say, yeah, show me the Python code to use the OpenAI API. Let's go full meta, I would say. Here we go. So we run this. That's the request to the API via the library. Then we get the response. Then we print the answer. That's it. So that's the way that you could use the previous iteration of the API, DaVinci 2 or DaVinci 3. And we will see the cost. Yeah, so it was 238 tokens, approximately the same for approximately the same price. So I hope that you found this video useful. If you have any questions about the implementation of the API, you can also ask them in the questions below, and I will do my best to answer them as soon as possible. Thank you.